Hi, this is Dr. Rohrich. Welcome back to Rohrich Knows Podcast, helping you become a better you, a more educated you. Now, what is intermittent fasting? I mean, everybody's been on a diet, and I don't know, most of the time they don't work. I mean, I've been on NutriFast, all these things, they don't work. But what does work and what works long term? I don't really know the answer to that, but I have an expert here, Dr. Phil Raskin, who's a professor of medicine at UT Southwestern, but he's also an endocrinologist and a world expert in diabetes. And he's going to kind of enlighten us on what his thoughts are, having treated thousands of patients, and what diets work and what doesn't. So, Phil, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good.
Pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. And Dr. Raskin, so I know, you tell your patients all about diets and you send them to a dietitian, for diabetes, which is very important for their life and lifestyle. But recently, intermittent fasting has entered the scope of something that's very powerful. And, I've looked at it and I've actually done it because it seems to make a lot of sense to me, because it doesn't require you to order something every 3 weeks and something. You don't fast for a part of the day, and it actually has worked a little bit because I've lost some of the weight that I had during the COVID era. So Phil, tell us about that. What do you think about intermittent fasting? First of all, what is it?
Well, it's people don't eat for a certain amount of time, either one or 2 days a week, or 8 hours one day and 12 hours the other.
So it's all over the board.
The truth of it is, weight, in my view, is just a balance.
Right.
A balance of how much you take in and how much you burn.
Right.
The fuel you burn. And so the way to lose weight is, you can't defy the second law of thermodynamics. And so, if you take in more calories than you use, weight's going to go up. If you take in less calories than you burn, your weight's going to go down. And so intermittent fasting is a way to reduce the calories that you take in.
Yeah, the input. Yeah.
Right, the input side. And I think that's a good way to control your calories if you can stand it.
Right, and actually there is very few studies on longevity, and one of the only ones which actually has been shown in both animals and humans is that by eating less, people long-term can live longer as well too, right? So
right. I mean, there's data that people that don't eat very much live a hell of a lot longer than the rest of us. Sorry,
they may not be enjoying life, but so that's another positive effect. So intermittent fasting. You mentioned, there's like you do it every other day, or you do it. You do the marathon one, or you do the 12 and 12, or you do the 16 and 8, which is what I usually try and do. That seems to work very well. And then you kind of balance it with when you're not fasting, you can't go back to eating all the garbage you've been eating. You got to also try and be safe, right?
Yeah, well, you have to
be good.
The total calories for the day or the week has to be less than you were doing before, or else your weight won't change.
In other words, in those 8 hours, you can't eat the same garbage that
you can't eat everything you were going to eat in 24, because that's not very. I mean, it really is. It's just the number. It's just calories in and calories out, and there's no bigger secret than that. I mean, if you just look at it, if you take in less calories than you expend, you'll lose weight.
Right. And it's that simple, but it's something, I think, why it's tangible to me? It's because anybody can do it, and you don't need to have special formulas, special meals.
You don't need a doctor. You don't need anything.
You don't need anything. You just need your watch. And actually, there's an app. There's multiple apps. It says, okay, this is when I start fasting. Like it's going to be 5 o'clock, and then I just need to fast for 18 hours. And then it tells me that by tomorrow at noon I can eat something. But you can eat things like you can drink water, coffee, no dairy, correct? And those things, and I think that's been good. I've actually tried to cut out most of the dairy, and that's actually been, I think, pretty good. Is that okay to do?
Yeah, but you need some calcium and phosphorus for your bones, and stuff. And if you're still growing, of course, that's not. Right. It's just for older people, it might be okay. But even so, if people are older, they have, thin osteopenia or osteoporosis, and they need to keep up with their calcium, which they can do in a pill from Costco if they want, you know.
Right. So intermittent fasting sounds like it's a reasonable thing to do. It's fairly easy, but you have to be fairly strict about doing it if you're going to lose weight. Like you said, input versus output.
That's the simplest answer. You have to eat less than you burn, and you will lose weight. Now, how you go about eating less, I mean, I think that's a matter of choice.
Right.
You know,
Everybody's got a different lifestyle.
some people couldn't do that. Some people get so ravenous, and so they have to. And a lot of dietitians tell people to eat 6 times a day.
Is that? But is
Yeah,
that really
that
makes
works
sense?
too. I mean, it's in total for the day, what you take in versus what you
So
burn.
what is like a diet which actually is safe? I mean, like, is it calories? How many calories per day?
Well, for people like me, probably, 1,000 calories a day. I wouldn't waste away on that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, but the more activity you have,
You have to increase it.
you have to increase it. Women, if they're lactating or something, have to increase it. I mean, and pregnant women, of course, they watch them like a hawk how much they eat.
Right.
And so, I mean, it makes a difference who it is, but most people, 1,500 calories a day is probably enough for most, ordinary people.
So is calorie counting still a good thing to do?
Absolutely.
You should do that.
I think so. I mean, I think it's the only way you can know what the heck you're doing.
Right. And I think you make a lot of sense. Just because you're fasting for 16 hours and in those 8 hours you just go crazy, you're not going to do anything, are you?
Well, the thing about the intermittent fasting probably is that even though you're starving, when you're going to go eat, how much can you eat at one time?
Right.
And so, and especially if you decide that you're going to watch what it is that you eat when you eat,
But-
you probably wouldn't eat too much.
But as an endocrinologist, so what happens when you continue fasting, for 16, 18 hours? You go into ketosis,
Yes.
right? So tell us about that because, people need to know, is that a good thing? Is ketosis? And then
Well,
that's
it's a
actually
good-
probably good for your body, is it not?
Well,
and it also starts burning.
It's fat. It's burning fat. That's what.
It's burning your own fat.
Your own fat, and
Which
so-
is a good thing.
Which is what you want to do, because that's
Right.
what you want to get rid of. I mean, I just read a paper came out today where we talked about this the last time about those GLP-1 receptor
Right.
agonists, and one of the things that this paper came out just today or yesterday or something that talked about the fact that there's a fairly high loss of muscle mass in people that are taking these drugs.
Oh,
That
really?
part of the weight loss isn't just fat; it's muscle.
And you don't want to do that,
Well,
right?
you don't want to lose too much muscle mass. I mean, the truth of it is, you lose weight, you're going to lose fat, you're going to lose muscle, you're going to lose it from both. I mean, you can't just.
How do you minimize the muscle loss? That's not a good thing.
Now, yeah, but I think first of all, the fat goes first.
The fat goes
usually.
first.
But there's some probably muscle mass lost whenever you go on a diet and lose weight. Some of it has to be lost.
Right. So you get on ketosis, then that it goes to your body fat.
That's also, yeah, that is the body fat burning. I mean,
Right.
that's how they know you're burning fat when you have ketones in your urine.
Right.
And the thing about that is that the ketosis also cuts down your appetite. So it
Really?
has, yeah, it's it's
it's a
helpful.
positive.
Yeah, it's a somewhat positive thing, and it's the measure of the fat loss.
Right. So is there an intermittent fasting, just so we can give some more facts out to the consumer about, so, I mean, I have my own preference. I think like 16-8 seems to work for me. And like you said, in that 8-hour period, you can't be ravenous. You got to, I've actually tried to stop all dairy, a lot of carbs, and that seems to be working for me. But I don't really count calories as much as I'm just trying to consume less and to get away from dairy products.
Well, that's all right. I mean, however you reduce your calories, really
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
Okay. And what about sugar? The American diet is so laden with sugar. Isn't that, I mean, obviously it keeps you in business, not that you needed to have any more business, but isn't our American diet overall just terrible?
It's pretty bad, yeah.
What happened since the 70s with that food pyramid? Why it's kind of destroyed really a lot of lives.
A lot of us have lousy diets. I mean, the food is tasty and it's cheap. I mean, the worst carbohydrate meals are usually the cheapest. I mean, spaghetti,
Right.
spaghetti pasta. I mean, you can buy a big box of that in the store for 70 cents, and it's just all calories,
Right.
it's
And
all
sugar and-
carbohydrate, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really. I mean, honestly, also, I always look, and you're an expert in diabetes, but when I look at food, I look at the calories, but I really look at the amount of sugar. The amount of sugar is so amazing, and even like quote unquote low fat yogurt. And isn't low fat kind of a myth? I mean,
No, it's not a low fat. I mean, it may be low fat, but it still has carbohydrate. I mean, they have to put something in there.
right, but then it's got high sugar.
Well,
sometimes.
carbohydrate is sugar.
Right,
so,
exactly.
yeah.
So I mean that's so. So what do you feel is a good guide if somebody wants to start or do intermittent fasting, which I do think has worked. It's worked for me. Now I've only been on it for about 6 or 9 months, but it works.
Well, I just think you should, I guess you want to fast from midnight till 8 o'clock at night, and then eat your supper and go to bed.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
go for a walk and then go to bed.
Yeah, and what about I actually don't like to eat after 6 or 7. I mean, just for me, it just it lets me. I don't know. I
I don't like to eat before 6 or 7.
You don't like to eat before 6.
no,
Oh, yeah, you're more European. I mean,
I'm
Americans.
not European.
No, but I'm saying I actually if I eat late at night, it's not good for me. I mean, maybe I have regurg or something, but I don't. It doesn't seem. I don't know. How about you? So you don't think it matters?
Well, it matters. I guess my wife hates to eat late because she has, it doesn't sit with her very well. She doesn't like it. And it doesn't bother me, and I would rather eat a little bit later than a little bit earlier.
So she eats earlier, you eat later?
No, we eat together. I mean, you don't stay married for going to be 60 years eating separately. I can tell you that.
I know.
Some non-medical advice. Anybody watching?
Hey, good job. Yes, that's funny. Okay, so Dr. Raskin, great educational points. So what are some take-home points for those listening to your podcast about intermittent fasting, and what they should do to lose weight and do it long term, not a fad?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to change what you eat.
Change what you eat.
You have to, reduce the amount. Usually is a good way to do it.
Right.
Whatever you're used to eating, take half, and you're
Right.
you're right on the right road.
Exactly. And Americans, in Europe you have small plates. Americans have big plates.
Right.
Instead of 2 fists, maybe 1 fist or whatever.
A half a fist.
A half a fist. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll cut that off. Okay, so eat less.
And foods that aren't obviously fatty and,
Right.
and bad for you. Ice cream, cake, stuff like that. All the good stuff.
Yeah.
If it's tasty, it's probably bad for you. That's
exactly.
a rule.
So high carb, high sugar,
Bad.
and dairy. Not
Well,
good.
it depends what the dairy. I mean, cottage cheese is dairy, and that's really good for you.
No,
because
cottage cheese is
it's
good?
low fat, and
Okay.
it's filling.
Okay.
You can put some raw asparagus in there and some
Yep.
peppers, and you're good.
Okay. Any colored,
Any color,
vegetable.
Right. Any color, right?
Okay, any color is good. Okay, and then intermittent fasting. I mean, which one do you think of after reading all that? Which one do you think works the best?
Well, I haven't been able to find any data on which one works the best. I would say the one that's easier for
you.
person to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Common sense. That's great. Good. Well, amazing common sense from an amazing professor of medicine at UT Southwestern, Dr. Phil Raskin. It's always a pleasure having you with me. And thank you again for joining us
Thank
on
you
Rohrich
for
Knows
asking me.
Podcast.
It was fun.
Helping you become a better and more educated you. See you at our next podcast.